An intensifying biological phenomenon is drawing the attention of global public health agencies as hantavirus infections spike across Argentina. This surge is occurring alongside a massive rodent population boom, heavily altering transmission dynamics and expanding the traditional boundaries of the disease. According to data reported by the Argentine Health Ministry, authorities have documented 101 hantavirus infections since June 2025, a figure that is roughly double the caseload recorded over the exact same period during the previous year. This rapid escalation has placed health infrastructure on high alert. The geographic tracking of these infections reveals a major shift in the virus's historical behavior. While hantavirus cases were historically constrained to the southern reaches of Patagonia, official data from the Health Ministry indicates that 83% of current cases are now localized in Argentina's far north. This significant migration of the disease footprint highlights changing environmental realities. Viewers and international tracking bodies are monitoring these developments with high gravity because hantaviruses represent a rare but exceptionally severe family of pathogens. In humans, infection primarily manifests as hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a condition marked by rapid progression to pneumonia, acute respiratory distress, and shock, yielding historically high case fatality rates. Virologists clarify that the virus is carried silently by specific rodent reservoirs, which shed the active pathogen in their urine, feces, and saliva without suffering clinical illness themselves. For decades, the primary mechanism of human infection has involved the inhalation of microscopic aerosols. When rodent excretions dry out and are physically disturbed during human activity, breathing in even a small volume of the airborne virus can be sufficient to initiate severe respiratory illness. The current situation in South America underscores how quickly localized ecological imbalances can scale into acute public health emergencies. The operational response involves multiple national and global entities, including the World Health Organization, Argentina's state science body CONICET, and the renowned Malbrán Institute. Intensive field and laboratory investigations were initiated following a deadly outbreak linked to the cruise ship MV Hondius, which departed from Ushuaia, Argentina on April 1, 2026. As of late May 2026, the World Health Organization confirmed 13 cases related to this specific maritime cluster, consisting of 11 laboratory-confirmed cases and 2 probable cases, resulting in 3 deaths and an overall case fatality ratio of 23%. In response to this crisis, investigators from the Malbrán Institute deployed to the southernmost forests surrounding Ushuaia in Tierra del Fuego to trap local rodents. Working in bright blue gloves and surgical masks, scientists monitored 150 box traps set across national parklands and wooded hillsides. Local health ministry spokesperson Martín Alfaro stated that the objective is to collect rodent blood samples to rule out local transmission, noting that the province has never conducted this type of testing before because the area sits 500 kilometers south of the known endemic range of the long-tailed pygmy rice rat, locally known as the coli largo. A sharp point of contention exists between national and provincial authorities regarding the precise source of the outbreak. The national government's leading hypothesis suggests that an infected Dutch tourist couple contracted the virus during a bird-watching excursion near an Ushuaia landfill. However, provincial health officials in Tierra del Fuego have fiercely rejected this theory, insisting that the victims did not visit that area during their infection window. Genetics professor Raúl González Itig from the National University of Córdoba explained that because early hantavirus symptoms perfectly mimic the common flu, presenting as fever, headaches, and chills, tourists frequently mistake the infection for a minor cold. This diagnostic ambiguity delays critical hospitalization and specialized testing, complicating early clinical management and clinical intervention before the rapid onset of pulmonary failure. Public guidance and regional surveillance strategies are focusing directly on the ecological and climatic factors driving this rodent surge. Researchers at CONICET note that Argentina has recently endured a highly volatile pattern of wild weather, characterized by historic droughts, immediately followed by bouts of unexpectedly intense rainfall. Professor Raul Gonzalez Idig explained the precise biological mechanism behind this boom, noting that sharp increases in precipitation drastically accelerate vegetation growth, scattering seeds that attract and sustain leaf-munching rodents. When food availability multiplies, rodent populations grow exponentially, raising the probability of transmission among the animals and ultimately increasing the spillover risk to human populations. To curb exposure, public health guidance emphasizes preventing the aerosolization of dried rodent waste. Health agencies instruct individuals in high-risk zones to avoid dry sweeping or vacuuming areas showing signs of rodent activity. Instead, standard protocols dictate wearing masks and thoroughly wetting contaminated surfaces with disinfectant or a bleach solution to trap viral particles before cleaning. Despite these established measures, significant gaps in scientific knowledge remain. The ongoing cruise ship outbreak has forced global health organizations to evaluate the exact limits of human-to-human transmission. The Andes strain, circulating primarily in the forests of Argentina and Chile, remains the only hantavirus species known to spread directly between people via close, sustained contact. While the World Health Organization explicitly states that the risk to the wider global public remains low, and that the virus lacks the transmission dynamics of highly contagious airborne pathogens like measles, close monitoring of contact networks continues across dozens of countries. If you want to stay updated on emerging infectious diseases and global health security reports, consider subscribing to our channel for ongoing coverage. The operational response involves multiple national and global entities, including the World Health Organization, the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control, and Argentina's renowned Malbrán Institute. Intensive epidemiological investigations were initiated following a deadly outbreak linked to the cruise ship MV Hondius, which departed from the southern port of Ushuaia, Argentina, on April 1, 2026. Official tracking from global monitoring bodies confirmed that the vessel carried 147 passengers and crew members representing 23 nationalities across the South Atlantic Ocean. As of late May 2026, health authorities confirmed that the cluster expanded to 13 total cases, comprising 11 laboratory-confirmed infections and 2 probable cases, resulting in 3 deaths. The clinical progression observed in the victims was severe, characterized by an initial onset of fever, headache, muscle aches, and acute gastrointestinal pain, which rapidly advanced to severe respiratory distress, pneumonia, and cardiovascular shock. Public health scientists deployed specialized testing to understand the threat. While early laboratory testing conducted in South Africa first verified a hantavirus infection in a critically ill British passenger evacuated to a Johannesburg intensive care unit, subsequent polymerase chain reaction testing and genetic sequencing definitively identified the specific pathogen as the Andes hantavirus strain. This confirmation alters the risk parameters because the Andes variant is uniquely documented to spread through person-to-person transmission in close, enclosed environments. In response to this containment crisis, a specialized team of biologists from the Malbrán Institute in Buenos Aires traveled directly to the southernmost forests of Tierra del Fuego to investigate the environmental origin of the pathogen. Working across 3 nights, researchers deployed 140 specialized traps to capture local wildlife in the wooded hills and national parklands surrounding Ushuaia. According to Juan Petrina, the director of epidemiology for Tierra del Fuego province, scientists successfully captured approximately 150 rodents to evaluate whether local populations have become viral reservoirs. The captured specimens consist primarily of 2 distinct native species, Abrothrix hirta, known as the hairy soft-haired mouse, and Abrothrix olivacea, known as the olive grass mouse. Blood and tissue samples extracted from these animals are being transported back to the central laboratories of the Malbrán Institute to determine if the active virus is circulating in a geographic zone historically considered outside the vector's endemic range. A distinct point of contention has emerged regarding the precise source and location of the initial spillover event. The primary working hypothesis maintained by international tracking agencies suggests that the index case, a Dutch passenger who spent 48 hours exploring Ushuaia with his wife prior to embarkation, contracted the virus on land via environmental exposure to aerosolized rodent waste. However, local provincial authorities have scrutinized these assumptions, noting that Tierra del Fuego has no historical record of local hantavirus transmission, as the region sits far south of the traditional habitat of the long-tailed pygmy rice rat. Alternative operational theories under review include the potential contamination of shipboard provisions or the presence of a rodent vector hidden within the vessel itself during its time at port. Clinicians stress that tracking this outbreak remains highly complex due to diagnostic delays. Because the early symptoms of hantavirus perfectly mimic routine seasonal influenza or common gastrointestinal infections, infected travelers frequently delay seeking specialized emergency care until their condition drops into acute pulmonary syndrome, vastly reducing the efficacy of early, supportive interventions. The expanding geographical footprint of hantavirus in South America has forced public health agencies to completely reassess their regional surveillance strategies and public guidance. Data analyzed by researchers at Argentina's state science body, CONICET, reveals that the primary catalyst for the current rodent explosion is a direct consequence of volatile weather patterns. The country recently transitioned through an intense, prolonged drought that was immediately followed by unprecedented heavy rainfall. Professor Raúl González Ittig, a genetics specialist at the National University of Córdoba, explained the biological chain reaction triggered by these climate swings. The sudden influx of moisture accelerated a massive bloom of native vegetation, leading to an extraordinary surplus of seeds and wild fruits. This sudden abundance of high-energy food sources removed the natural checks on rodent reproduction, prompting an exponential population boom. As the density of rodent populations increases within a localized area, the rate of viral transmission among the animals spikes dramatically. This increases the total viral load in the environment and drastically elevates the statistical probability of the pathogen spilling over into human populations who share these habitats. To mitigate this heightened exposure risk, health ministries have issued clear, non-negotiable practical protocols aimed directly at preventing the aerosolization of dried rodent secretions. Standard public health directives warn individuals against dry sweeping, brushing, or vacuuming any enclosed spaces, such as cabins, sheds, or storage units, that show evidence of rodent nesting or droppings. Because the virus is highly fragile when exposed to specific chemical agents, the recommended procedure requires thoroughly soaking all contaminated surfaces with a 10% bleach solution or a heavy-duty household disinfectant before attempting to clear the debris. Wetting the area ensures that dried urine and feces are completely immobilized, preventing viral particles from lifting into the air as microscopic droplets that can be easily inhaled. Furthermore, individuals entering potentially infested structures are strongly advised to wear high-filtration masks, open all doors and windows to maximize ventilation for at least 30 minutes prior to entry, and secure all domestic food supplies in airtight, rodent-proof containers to avoid attracting vectors to living spaces. Despite these established physical countermeasures, massive gaps in global scientific knowledge persist regarding the exact transmission limits of the virus. The ongoing investigation into the cruise ship cluster has forced organizations like the World Health Organization and the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control to closely re-examine the mechanics of human-to-human transmission. The Andes virus variant remains entirely unique among known hantaviruses for its documented ability to spread directly from person to person, a phenomenon typically restricted to individuals who maintain close, prolonged contact during the early incubation and symptomatic phases. While international health bodies explicitly emphasize that the general risk to the wider global public remains very low, and that the pathogen does not possess the rapid, unhindered airborne transmission dynamics of highly contagious viruses like measles. The ethical mandate of public health reporting requires absolute transparency without causing public panic. Epidemiologists stress that tracking networks must remain vigilant across borders, as global travel can quickly transport an incubating passenger across continents before symptoms emerge. For continuous fact-checked updates on emerging infectious diseases, environmental public health developments, and global biosurveillance reports, consider subscribing to our channel.